Describing the girl, Doug said she appeared to be quite pretty. And you, Doug, are quite creepy. Perhaps 10 years old and possessing long hair that was matted and soaked. Soaked. In one burst of courage, Doug continued, I stood up and gently pulled the sheet from the bed as to not to disturb Diane. I wrapped it around myself and decided to go help the girl. By now I figured that Diane might as well wake up and find out what was going on. I kept my eyes on the girl as I walked around the front of the bed, going over Diane's side to turn on a light. As I did this, she began to walk backwards toward the sliding glass doors that go out to the beachside porch. I quickened my pace and whispered for her to stay. I really wanted to help her now. By the time I reached the light switch, she was near the glass doors. I turned on the light, jostled Diane awake, and in that split second I looked away. She was gone! She just disappeared onto the porch. Diane was stirring, and I tried to deal with her at the same time I was trying to figure out what had happened to the little visitor. Then it struck me like a ton of bricks. Not a half ton, but a full ton of bricks. I lost my spot. That she really did just disappear. What's more, she backed out. I saw her back out of the window, right through the window. There's no doubt in my mind that she simply walked through the full-length glass doors onto the back porch. Diane verified the events that now started to involve her. I remember Doug pushing on my shoulder, she relates. Change of voices. I remember Doug pushing on my shoulder, she relates, and flicking on the light. I had no idea why he was doing this, and at first I was a little disturbed about it. Then it hit me that maybe something had happened to one of our children. I woke up right away, fearing the worst. About all I remember then is Doug, with the sheet tied around him like a toga, whispering some words toward the beach porch. I looked over toward the sliding glass doors and saw something, a shadow or something, but I honestly can't tell you I saw any little girl. People from Cherry Hill talk in British accents. Diane's and Doug's stories dovetail at this point, when both became involved in the mystery. I turned the light on and knew Diane was awake and was trying to explain to myself what had happened. Doug recalls the little girl, or whatever, was gone, and I really didn't look forward to explaining it to Diane. I wanted to go to work on one of my magnificent paintings while I was up and so very frightened. I knew that she'd think I was just dreaming, but I also knew that I absolutely was not. Diane did ask right away if I was all right and if the kids were all right. I assured her yes on both counts. Then she asked if I had just had a nightmare. I told her no, and got a little angry, or maybe hurt, when she started to smile a little. I know that what I was telling her sounded unbelievable, but I didn't need any ridicule at that point. Not an artist like me. Diane got up, slipped on a nightie, and sat on the end of the bed as I told her more. Then it hit me. That little girl was really soaking wet. If that little girl was really soaking wet, there'd be a puddle, or at least a wet floor where she stood. I grabbed Diane's hand and went around the bed where there was no evidence whatsoever of any kind of wetness. Diane seemed to be a bit more understanding. And I hoped she realized that I was very scared. We retraced the movements of the little girl to the glass doors and all. For some reason, we opened the doors and went out to the porch. On the porch, as I continued to tell her my story, then a most unbelievable thing happened. I looked down on the porch and saw what seemed to be a very small piece, it's hard to talk this loud, a very small piece of torn cloth. It was wet and grey like my paintings and looked very old. There were no footsteps or anything, just this piece of cloth about the size of a cigar. And now I lost my spot. I reached down, picked it up, and crumbled it in my hand. There's no doubt that it was cloth. Even Diane recognized that, and she's a complete dumb shit. But it was very brittle and just disintegrating as I lifted it. Diane added that the cloth, a strip about 1 inch wide and 4 to 5 inches long, did appear to be crinoline, and something of which a little girl's dress would be made. Oh my goodness, the story is so long. Diane took up the story from here. When I saw that piece of cloth, I got chills. I guess I really did believe Doug all along. As he said, he's not one to see things and never really had nightmares or weird dreams, but you know, it's tough trying to understand something like this. I remember that we were holding hands, and I think Doug was close to tears as he tried to calm down. Suddenly, I happened to look down over the dune at the beach when I saw it. There, silhouetted in the little bit of moonlight there, was a little girl. She was walking slowly on the beach, sort of diagonally toward the water. From Doug's description of her dress, I felt this had to be her. My motherly instincts then prevailed, and I thought that I'd better help her. It was, 4 in the morning, and this little girl was wandering on the beach? It was very strange. Doug and I both saw the figure. He was still a little bit put out by everything, and it took a few moments for me to convince him to come along to the beach with me to see what was wrong with the little girl. Then Doug hit me squarely with a word that I never heard him use before. He told me he wasn't about to go to the girl, because it was a ghost. Really, we are so realistic about life, and I guess swear that ghosts and goblins and all that to us are just things kids dress up as at Halloween. It really shocked me when Doug referred to this girl as Ghost. I knew that he was very scared. In the minute or two of discussion between Doug and Diane, something very bizarre had happened. They both looked again toward the little girl and watched with utter amazement as she slowly walked into the surf deeper and deeper into the water. It seemingly unaffected by the rushing waves, and disappeared. We both just stood there wide-eyed, Doug said. I felt my knees starting to buckle, and I don't think I blinked my eyes or breathed for about 2 or 3 minutes. Obviously, I had never seen anything like this in my life. For a few seconds, I thought that I'd better call the police. Maybe this was all very real and this little girl was really in trouble. I thought again, though, and felt that it may have been very real, but the girl was not real at all.